to our new Osceola studio, and welcome to the 2022 preseason position preview. We start with the offense, and today we'll discuss the offensive line. I'm Bob Ferranti, joined by Osceola publisher Jerry Cutts.
Hey, everybody. Glad you could join us. We're really excited about this new format for the Osceola. We'll be breaking it down, everything that Bob and I saw at this position group. And then we'll bring in some special guests, some former players that we'll be using throughout the fall as analysts. And Bob, who we got today?
We have our good friend Mark Salva, who's joined us for many years on the Osceola. We thank you for joining us, Mark. And a little bit about Mark Salva, for those of you who are not familiar with him. He was a member of the 1987 team that started that dynasty run for Coach Bowden and the Seminoles. And then he came back as an assistant coach. He was a graduate assistant as part of that 1993 national championship team before he went on to South Carolina and was an offensive line coach. Mark, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey guys, I'm outstanding. Excited about, is it football season yet, right?
Hey, I like your shirt.
How about that? Representing. A good friend sent this to me.
Hey, Mark, tell us, what are you doing now? I mean, share with our listeners what your career is at this time.
Yeah, so I got out of coaching in 1999. I went after I left South Carolina, and I got into the pharmaceutical business, and I've been in pharmaceutical sales and market development for 20 years or so. I'm currently with a company called Gilead Sciences. You may have heard of it, especially during the pandemic. And so now I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm working in the infectious disease space for Gilead Sciences.
Yeah, you've been in a big space this last few years with the
Absolutely.
COVID.
It's been crazy, right? And especially with my company. But of course, on the side, I do still train offensive linemen. I hold camps here. I have a facility here where I'll train anywhere from middle school up to guys getting ready for the draft, with some guys that are here like at Vanderbilt and other places. We have some, the guy that I partner with has some contacts in the agent space, and he'll bring some of his clients to me to help train, get them ready for the draft and the combine, things like that. So I stay connected football wise in terms of coaching and teaching, and obviously study FSU football and everything, Knowles. So I stay connected with a lot of the contacts that I have, and of course former guys that I played with that are still coaching, guys that I coached with, guys like that. So yeah, still involved with football.
We're real excited that you're going to join us again this year as an analyst. And, Bob and I watched practices, and we cover the program as hard as we possibly can. But a man's got to know his limitations. And as they say, mine are limitless. But, it's great to have you guys on who can really give us an inside perspective from a player's standpoint, but also each of our analysts have coached. And so you guys see it in a different way than we sports writers do.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to be here. You're right. It is a unique perspective, having, played for FSU and coached with Coach Bowden. I don't think other than maybe Odell and a couple other guys that, have been there longer, having that perspective really just kind of, FSU runs through my veins. I bleed garnet and gold. But I also can look at it with a good critical eye and kind of understand what I see on the field and kind of how that translates to what's maybe happening behind the scenes, what's being coached, what's being said, what the issues are, and maybe not get so knee jerk on certain things, but kind of have an understanding of what it takes to develop players, what it takes to build a program, what it takes to bring players along, and what makes a winning football team. So I think I bring that obviously, and that's kind of the perspective I try to provide, and not just be a fan, but be, critical, but realistic too.
Games are won up front on the offensive line. You've taught us about that for years and years. Mike Norvell and Alex Atkins are rebuilding this program through both the high school ranks and the transfer portal. How have you seen this group evolve? Now it's going into year 3 with Coach Atkins and Coach Norvell. Where has the offensive line made progress since their arrival?
Well, prior to their arrival, I don't think it's any big secret that we really struggled on the offensive line. And the main issues for me that really upset me or that really made me shake my head was that it didn't seem like there was any kind of cohesion. There wasn't any understanding. There was obviously a disconnect between scheme, players, and expectations. And so probably the biggest thing when Coach Norvell and Coach Atkins first got here, the first thing I wanted to see is I wanted to see guys, number one, that played hard. That was number one thing. Number two, that had an understanding of what it was they were trying to do. I think, God bless Cam Makers, the poor guy, he'd get the ball, he'd get hit in the backfield and still make 3 or 4 yards. It would have been great to see him be able to get into the line of scrimmage and see what he could do, but he never really got that chance with the group that we had performing at that time. I think the biggest improvements I've seen has been exactly that. They do play hard. I've seen less mistakes in terms of missed assignments. I see a lot more communication. I see guys looking at each other, talking to each other. I see an understanding of what it is they're trying to do. I don't see as many linebacker run-throughs. I don't see as many missed assignments. They still happen, but not at the rate they did prior to their arrival. And it just got better and better and better. When Norvell came in during that COVID-ravaged season, it was still hard, but it got better. And then I think they made great strides last year in terms of that. So I'm looking for them to build on what they improved on. And, oh, by the way, they did it with a lot of young players, so they should be even better in that regard. But for me, the next step now is just improving on that. But now it's time for them to step up and start dictating the game, start dictating, being more physical, start dominating games on the offensive side of the ball and dictating the pace of the game. We haven't quite got to that point yet, so it'll be interesting to see if we can get there.
Seeing improvement. We're seeing progress here, right?
We're seeing real good progress. Mark, you've talked a lot about Atkins and the things that you've seen that he's instilled in these players. Can you talk a little bit about that and what your thoughts on Atkins as a line coach?
So I've been able to observe him a little bit in practice. I've been able to observe him and talk with him a little bit on his philosophy and on how he coaches the guys. And the thing I love about him is that he is an offensive line coach. And even though now he's the offensive coordinator, I think first and foremost in his heart, he's an offensive line coach, and he understands what it takes to build a cohesive unit. What I've observed with him, it seems to me he does the right things. The drills he does, the techniques he's teaching, the verbiage he's using, the standards he's holding them to. I like what I see. And so they can't help but get better. I think if he stays the course and stays consistent in what he's asking these guys to do, we've seen incremental progress. And again, these guys were really young when he first got here. And now they're, a lot of these guys are going to be third-year players under him. I think, you're going to hopefully see some great leaps with some of these guys that have been with him a while. And, I really believe he's teaching the right things. And I'm real excited about him being offensive coordinator. And we can talk about that a little later, but I got my reasons for that too.
We'll be back after this.
Hey, Seminole fans! Tickets to Florida State football games are now on sale. Right now, you can pick up single game tickets, 3-game packs, and season tickets for the 2022 season. Home games include Florida, Clemson, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, Boston College, Louisiana, and Duquesne. Have fun this football season with your friends and family, all the while knowing your ticket purchase is funding FSU's success. Call your ticket rep today at 850-644-1830 or visit Seminoles.com. That's Seminoles.com.
Welcome back. Hey, Mark, I'd like to follow up with you on where we left off about Alex Atkins becoming offensive coordinator. And you noted that he wouldn't, lose track of his position, offensive line coach first. And that was advice I remember Coach Bowden giving Mark Richt when he gave Mark the offensive coordinator promotion. He said the first rule is don't forget your position. Can you expand on that?
Yeah. So in my experience, you guys know me, I was raised on FSU football with Coach Bowden and Wayne McDuffie. And Wayne was, in my opinion, the best offensive line coach ever. I mean, the guy was absolutely outstanding, but he was also offensive coordinator. And honestly, as a player, I didn't even realize what all he did until I got behind the doors and understood, as a coach and see him work as offensive coordinator, what it took to do that. But as a player, I never had an inkling all the things that he was doing, organizing that, because he was so much on us that you didn't really have any sense that he was really controlling the whole thing, right? And part of that was he had some good assistants with him. Part of that is he was just that good, right? And so, yeah, to your point, I'm sure Coach Bowden held him to that standard because that's what Coach Bowden did. But really the genesis for my comment was really about us getting a more sustained offense and a better running game. And for me, and also in my experience as a football coach and an offensive line coach on the major college level, when you have a quarterback or a wide receiver as a coordinator and a play caller, right? The solution to every problem is throwing the ball. And running the ball requires so much timing and requires so much growing into the game that you can't give up on the running game. And I think offensive line coaches understand that more than anything else. The angles that offensive linemen have to take, the level of intensity of the game, the fits, the timing of the running back, all that stuff. Sometimes you got to run the ball a few times and it may not be successful right at first and you can't give up on it. Now, Mark Richt was good at that. Mark Richt understood that when he became offensive coordinator, and he had a really good running game when he was coordinator. When I was at FSU, Brad Scott was the offensive coordinator, who was the offensive line coach. And of course, before that, it was Wayne. And one thing I learned as a coach is that when the running game wouldn't go early, you stuck with it, because the offensive linemen, especially if you have a seasoned group, will begin to figure it out during the course of a game. But my comment about Alex being the coordinator gives me hope that not every answer to every problem is a throw, right? It's stick with the running game, find a solution in the running game, in the schemes, give your guys time to figure it out. And because honestly, we have some talent in the backfield, and I believe our offensive line talent is the best it's been in years. But they still have obviously a long way to go to be thought of as elite, but it's better than it's been. And I think, and I believe that, they can take the next step. And part of it is to be patient, especially early in the year and during the course of a game. And that's why I said what I said.
Years, Mark, we were trying to look at this offensive line. We could find a starting five, but we couldn't find a backup group. We couldn't find a good group of five number twos. Now, when you look at it, 18 offensive linemen, and Florida State has played these past few years with 14 linemen. Not enough numbers as far as development, guys on the practice field, not enough competition. Now that there are numbers here, quality and quantity, how can Alex Atkins use this group to develop competition through practice and find that best starting five and then that best backup five?
Well, you got to throw them in the crucible, and hopefully you did that some in the spring. You're going to have to do it during fall camp. I know Coach Bowden always told us as coaches the goal of the spring was to get all the right guys in the right places, and that was the goal to come out of the spring. I don't know that we necessarily have that luxury now with the transfer portal and all that, and so that thought is going to have to carry over into fall camp. So he's got bodies to work with, and he's got pieces to try to fit in. You want to find your best five, and then you want to find your next best five, and obviously you want to cross train. And maybe if you can get if you can get to 8 that you feel good about, I think you are far ahead of most programs, right? Outside of Georgia and Alabama, who probably go too deep easy. If you can find 7 or 8 that you feel really good about, that there's no drop off. Because in the past, if we get somebody hurt, if Maurice Smith gets hurt, the drop off was so tremendous that it handcuffed us as an offense. I think we may be starting to come out of that now with the numbers that we have, right? And a guy gets hurt, we got a guy where the drop off is not quite so much, right? If they're going to start, they're starting because they're the best guy, and that's why they're starting. And part of that has to do with, so that competition also carries over not just through fall camp, but throughout the fall. There are going to be periods of practice where there's competition, where there's accountability, and the best guy is going to play. And to have that comfort in knowing you have that kind of competition, and it just, rising tide raises all boats. That competition is going to raise the offensive line, and in turn will raise the rest of the team. So I think that's a luxury we haven't had in many years.
We hope you're enjoying these videos. Please like and subscribe to our Osceola YouTube channel. That's the Osceola. You get analysis from Mark Salva and all of our football experts. Let's finish with this. I want to get Mark's input, and then Jerry and I will jump in here. Florida State has been looking for 8 dependable offensive linemen, and as we're working toward that number, we think they're very, very close. Let's talk about some of the younger names out there. A Thomas Schrader, a Zane Herring, a Lloyd Willis, Rod Orr, Bryson Estes. Mark, I'm going to throw it to you first. One guy who you really think is going to step in here as a backup who's going to be dependable for this team in 2022.
Well, I think the one that could probably help us the most would be Lloyd Willis. Just his size and his physical presence on the edge is a guy that we really need. I was hoping when I saw Rod Orr in high school that he might be that guy, but I think he's still got a little ways to go. Of course, Schrader has shown flashes too. But if I was going to bet on somebody, it'd be Lloyd Willis out of that group.
Jerry, you get second pick. Who do you got?
Okay. Well, I think Bless Harris is still a young guy. And so I was very impressed with Bless Harris this spring. I think he's got a chance to start. And certainly he'd be in your top 8. Another young guy that, as a freshman, was very impressive was Daughtry Richardson. And for a guy on the edge, he really held his own as a really true freshman in the spring. Very impressive. And then the third guy that is coming off the knee injury, Schrader, he was awfully good a year ago, and sustained that injury, which put him behind. But,
I wasn't really thinking about Harris in terms of that group. I was thinking of Harris. To me, is definitely in the mix. Of guys that maybe aren't in the mix, those guys you spoke of. I think of Harris is really challenging. I mean, I think he's in that mix for the top 7 or 8 for sure. I think the guy, little bit I've seen and things I've heard, and he seems to be a guy that's kind of taken to it really well. Has competed, has some physical tools. So I kind of consider him maybe a little higher than that second tier bunch of guys.
The guy I'm looking to is Thomas Schrader, a guard for the future. We're going to see some. Dylan Gibbons is going to graduate. Dimitri Emmanuel is going to move on to. You need to see those young guys emerge at guard. I'm looking at Thomas Schrader for some of the reasons that you laid out. We'll be back after this.
Alumni Hall, where you'll find officially licensed FSU gear for the entire family, including brands like Nike and Champion, plus great gifts for your favorite Seminole and home decor too. Miss some of the old Seminole throwback logos? Check out our College Vault collection. Shop online at alumnihall.com and let our great customer sales team ship to you within days, or pick up in store in Tallahassee. You'll find us in the Miracle Plaza Shopping Center on Thomasville Road. Students and military get 10% off in store, and Osceola subscribers get 20% off in store and online with their digital membership cards. Alumni Hall.
Okay, guys, breaking news. Florida State gets a commitment from Jastin Tarantine from the University of South Carolina, a 6'7", 335-pound left tackle. We've been wanting one of those. So Jazz played 10 games in the SEC at left tackle. That's got to help. Now, we had a chance to interview him. He was very candid about his strengths, which he thinks is the run blocking game, and on areas that he needs improvement, which is pass blocking. And it was very interesting, Bob, that he expressed that Alex Atkins has the toolbox to help him get to where he needs to go. And so, Mark, I know you've had a chance to watch film of him, school that you used to coach at, University of South Carolina. Can you give us your evaluation?
It's funny you guys say that about Jazz. A lot of the film study I did on him when he first announced his commitment to FSU, I went back and looked at the Florida game and the Vanderbilt 2-minute drill. And I think some of the things that he is talking about in terms of what he wants to improve are some of the same things I think I see. So I see a guy who, number one, is huge. I mean, 6'7", 330 pounds. That's a presence that you want on the edge. And he uses that size well. So the things he does well, when he cuts off in pass protection anyways, when he cuts off and makes it a one-way go, his length really helps him expand the pocket, widen the pocket, or if it's an inside charge and he gets on it, he rides it down good. He does a good job at that. The other things he does well on a bull rush, he's so big that when defenders come and bull rush him, more times than not, I've seen guys, and these are guys from Florida who are pretty good, actually have to stop their feet, which is the goal when you're an offensive tackle and you got a guy bull rushing. If you can make them a pass rusher reset, you've accomplished your goal, because that usually gives the quarterback time to find somebody and make a throw. So those are the things he does pretty well. In the running game, I think I see the same things he's talking about. When he gets in good combos with the guys next to him, he's able to be impactful. He makes good blocks. Now, where he gets in trouble is when he has to change direction. Okay, so he is big and he tends to be stand a little taller. His footwork needs to be improved. So on pass rush, for instance, on outside to in moves or inside to out moves, where he has to redirect or he doesn't necessarily get himself in good initial position, he struggles. He gets out of position. Guys can get around him. He looks kind of awkward. So those are things that can be improved. And the same thing kind of happens in the running game. If he has good meshes going on the first level, by the time he gets to the second level, if his angles aren't right or his body position isn't exactly right, and guys, linebacker, second level defenders out leverage him, he looks really awkward trying to get off and make blocks. So these are things that he, I think, recognizes. These are things that he can improve on himself. So his ability to impact our offensive line is going to be directly related to his ability to correct these things. And these are correctable things. These are technique things. This is footwork. This is body position. This is understanding how to work with somebody next to you. These are understanding the angles that you need to know. It's communication. So, the ability of Coach Atkins to get with him in the short term and in a short camp, improve these things, is going to determine how far and how much of an impact Justin Turrentine can have on this offensive line. Because I'll tell you one thing, at 6'7", 315, 30 pounds, this is a guy the presence you'd like to have on the edge of your offensive line.
Mark, we appreciate you joining us on this Osceola season preview. For Jerry Cutts, I'm Bob Ferranti. Thanks for watching.